All right, welcome guys to one more episode of Valor podcast. This time we're here in Colombia, so I get to the intro.
Yeah, you dude, you're the host.
I'm the host today. We're here in the car from Sonson all the way to Jardín. For context, it's a 7-hour ride. So we decided to do a car cast and make our time productive. Because in this car, we're American. We have to be productive.
Everything has to have output.
Just kidding. But yeah, we thought it would be nice to have a deep conversation and record it even for ourselves. So one of the things that we were talking about that we thought would be interesting to just for our own sake discuss further is this paradigm between coffee as a product and coffee as an ingredient. And then we're gonna touch based on specialty coffee, third wave, what's next, all of those things, e-commerce, marketing, and trips to origin, direct relationships, everything.
Do you want to introduce the fellow you're standing next to?
Okay.
You're sitting next to?
By my side, I have the honor to having Trevor.
Hey, how's it going?
Jason.
Jason, my unofficial travel name. So yeah, my name's Trevor Clark. I'm the marketing director at Black and White Coffee Roasters. I came down a couple days after the Valor crew got into Colombia. So I flew into Medellin on Tuesday, and I've been talking with Lucas for a bit about connecting to learn a little bit more about what Unblended's work actually looks like, kind of on the ground here in Colombia. We decided to come down to celebrate the opening of Unblended's office this weekend in Medellin. Very excited. I've been really excited to be here with all the crew from Valor, with Lucas, of course, and really just seeing a little bit of the work that Unblended is doing. As Lucas mentioned, we were down in Sonson. We drove down yesterday, midday, had lunch, and then went out to the farm of a coffee grower named Oscar Osorio. And he and several other members of the Unblended program who are based in and around Sonson came out, showed us a really incredible time there. And yeah, like Lucas said, we're now midway through our very, very long travel to Jardín. I think one of the funniest things you told me this morning was that we could actually see Jardín from
Oscar's farm.
From Oscar's farm, but it's taking us 7 hours to get there because there's just no straight road to get there.
Plus, there was a landslide earlier this year that they haven't been able to fix it.
Okay, Trevor, who's next to you? We got more people in the car, huh?
Yeah, let's pass it down to Luke from the home team, Valor Coffee.
Hey guys, I'm Luke. Happy to be here. Trying to not be car sick. Roads are very swervy up in these mountains. But nah, I'm having a great time. I roast the coffee for Valor. And yeah, I mean,
First time in origin?
first time at Orajin. Trevor kind of summed it up pretty well. It's just been awesome. Kind of meeting the people behind, your everyday cup of coffee, and going step by step through the process. And it's hard work. Makes me appreciate these guys a lot more. And yeah, that's it. I'll throw it over to Ethan, the driver.
Dude, I'm driving and I'm coming to a quick stop. Todo bien. Yeah, it's been awesome. I feel like, Lucas, I know we want to jump into coffee versus a product versus an ingredient, but maybe we could quickly say, you know, if you're a coffee person listening to this podcast and we keep saying son, maybe most people have never even heard of that. Why do you think most people have never heard of son, even though there's a lot of coffee there? We saw a lot.
Son is a town founded in
1605.
no.
Well, that was the first time.
Discovered 1605. It was actually founded in the 1800.
1818 or something.
Yeah. Anyhow, that's an old town, old colonial town, very relevant to the history of the independence here in Colombia. It's part of it's Antioquia. It's in the same state where Medellin is. I'm sure most people have heard of Medellin. They grow, it's very important in agriculture. Coffee is a relevant crop there, but I really don't know the reason, but there's not specialty coffee. There are not a lot of specialty coffee buyers. Maybe there is not an exotic variety, or Antioquia is a little bit behind in terms of specialty coffee in comparison to Huila, Nariño.
Well, maybe someone would think
Tolima.
like, oh, it's probably too low. And you're like, no,
It's very high.
It's very high. And you're
very
like, oh,
high.
maybe the soil's bad. No,
The soil's pretty good.
soil's very good.
Maybe the winds are not right. No,
No?
it's perfect.
It's perfect.
So there are the perfect conditions to making great coffee. Obviously, the knowledge capital is not there yet because this region hasn't been working on specialty coffee for the last 10 years, like Huila and Urrao, even here in Antioquia, have been. So, I mean, there's a long way to go in Sonson, but a lot of potential. Great climates. Sonson is at 2,600 meters above sea level.
So we had to go
Great
down.
soil. We had to go down from Sonson. But there are farms around Sonson. Great altitude. It's a fantastic town. Plus, Byron Arcila, who you guys will meet on Saturday, he's such a rock star. He's the one responsible for it being a small, tiny, growing community of specialty coffee growers there. And we've been working with Byron since 2021, and yep.
So maybe tying it back in, coffee there is viewed as maybe a commodity, just a crop, and then it gets sold and treated like an ingredient.
By most people, yes. By most people, tying it up, yep. By most people, by most of these farmers in Sonson is just one more thing that they grow. They grow coffee and avocado and some vegetables, and they sell everything in the town market, including coffee, by the kilo. Yeah. But not with the Byron and his friends, which have been experimenting, tasting their own coffees, roasting their own coffees, going to competitions, being involved, having a market where they know who's their client in terms of roasters. So very exciting.
Yeah, and shout out Trevor and Black and White because they buy the young producers Sonson lot, right?
They buy the young producer development, which is a different, and Oscar's coffee, who has been there, and Danilo's coffee, who we met, has been there as well.
And we were hanging out with Ivan Giraldo. We have some of his coffee coming in
To Valor, yeah.
today, probably.
Yep, today should be landing.
Pretty cool. But so what's the transition? What's the paradigm shift to viewing coffee as a product?
Ooh. So, how do we connect this idea?
Well, I mean, I was thinking, if many people know Black and White, they're known for coffee. They're not known for like, oh, they have the best vibe or the best latte or the best this or that. It's like they get crazy coffee. It's like distinct, it's unique. And I think we were talking about that's a place that Valor really wants to be as well. is being known for just more than, named coffees, but even if they are named, they're connected to people, they're connected to stories, they're connected to a narrative that people are excited about and like pay money for, the end point is the coffee.
And now with these times of the C market being up, the coffee shop business, as we've come to know it, is getting tighter and tighter in margins. We've seen, as Unblended, a lot of roasters interested in growing their direct-to-consumer e-commerce market. And we are honored and happy to have, I think, the kings of e-commerce for coffee, which is Black and White. And we have the head of marketing for the next 7 hours here.
He's trapped.
Time to unlock the secrets.
Oh, you're making me blush, Lucas. But I'll say we're lucky enough to also have the queens of e-commerce. Shout out to the rest of my team, the people who are back in Raleigh doing the hard work right now. Bailey Zander, our e-commerce manager, Jen Hall Sweat, who is our brand director, our newest addition to the team, Ari Viardita, who is our new content specialist as well. And, that's just our marketing team, right? And yet we've got so many people who are contributing to this. Obviously, like, marketing is only as good as the product that you're supporting, right? So our green sourcing from Kyle Ramage, one of the founders of Black and White, Matt Ferraro, our director of ops, they just do such an incredible job to really make these products come to life. And so to tease this out a little bit more, I think what Lucas has been talking about a bit over the last couple of days is this particular paradigm through which he kind of views coffee, which is coffee as an ingredient versus coffee as a product. And that's something that collectively we've all been talking about quite a bit and kind of parsing apart what is this distinction, And I think the idea behind coffee as a product versus an ingredient, I guess we'll start with ingredient.
Yeah.
Coffee as an ingredient, you think about like when you go into a cafe and you say, hey, I want an iced oat milk vanilla latte. Well, coffee is just an ingredient in that, right? Honestly, I don't want to pretend that coffee has no flavor. It definitely does. It comes through, but so much of the flavor that you get really is just this kind of like broad brushstroke of like coffee. If you get like roast, if you get a little bit of chocolatiness in there, that's pretty much all that you're looking for a lot of the time, right? Now,
Which makes the majority of the coffee business.
that's right.
Yeah.
It is most of what the coffee market is. That's how the majority of consumers, especially in America, that's how the majority of people are consuming this product. And there's nothing wrong with that, and it is just kind of its own whole thing compared to this other concept, which is that coffee as a product. When we're treating it as an ingredient, if there is Robusta in it, you're going to taste it. If it's really terribly roasted, you are going to taste that. But by and large, I think that a lot of the time, some of that specific nuance is going to get covered up by those sweeteners, by that milk. And again, I'm not here to shame somebody for whatever drink they want to get. I had a pumpkin spice latte from Starbucks a couple weeks ago. It ripped. Hey, come on, man.
Thanks for your honesty.
Don't yuck my yum. You got to get one every year,
We needed to hear that, Trevor.
That's what we need. We need to be talking about PSLs out here,
Come on.
But when I'm tasting that drink, I'm like, cool, there's a little bit of like roasty, smoky something in the back of this. And that's kind of where it stops. But then we have coffee as a product, which is really kind of the primary focus of like specialty coffee, I would say. When you see roasters like Black and White, like Valor, that are kind of going out of their way to feature specific lots of coffee, things that are really highly differentiated through the varieties used, the processing, whatever it is, ultimately, I mean, sure, somebody can throw that in a milk drink, but these are coffees that are kind of designed to be enjoyed a little bit more raw, right? Like, ultimately, we are seeking to source them and to sell them in a way that is just representing that characteristic of the coffee, all of the work that was put in, here in Colombia. Like
the way I see it is in the coffee as an ingredient. I mean, the sourcing kind of has to match the values of your brand. The flavor has to be decent, but a lot of the intangibles don't really matter. Like the name of the producer doesn't really matter. The variety doesn't really matter. The story of the producer doesn't really matter. Maybe if it was organic or not could matter to some instances, but whether it is a young producer, for example, which is relevant to our conversation, doesn't really matter in that case. We started talking about this paradigm because as Unblended, we think we are organized for that second side, which is coffee as a product, because all of our coffees, we purposely design them to have a lot of intangibles that are only valued if the roasters sell them as a product. So whenever you guys sell a new drop, you treat it, in my mind, as a product. Like, there is a marketing campaign, a teaser. There sometimes comes with a merch and a whole concept. There is, and people buy it a lot of times without trying it. Like they would buy a pair of shoes, a pair of, a piece of clothing. Anyhow, that's kind of.
Well, I think that's, man, there are so many directions to kind of point that in, right? Because on one hand, you have the coffee as a product, which is, so often people are buying that just based on what you're sharing with them about that product. It's about the connection that somebody is able to make with that product and the expectation that they're going into that product with. If you're telling somebody, hey, if you love funky fermentation forward coffees, this is going to be for you, then somebody's going to take a bit of a leap of faith based on the things that you're signaling. And it also comes down to kind of like brand trust as well, right? Like, what is the capital that your brand actually holds to be able to engage with people and kind of have this one-sided conversation with them where they're going to feel compelled to buy that coffee. And I think something that's interesting in this whole paradigm of like ingredient versus product is sometimes people don't get to the coffee as a product without first experiencing coffee as an ingredient.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
That might be how somebody gets to know a roaster. Is through understanding like, hey, this shop carries Valor and they're pulling shots of free throw, and all I know is I love the way my iced latte tastes when it has free throw as the base, and then they start going down the rabbit hole.
Right.
And then there's kind of this converse side to it that we've been talking about, which is, we're like a car full of like specialty coffee dorks. I hope you guys don't mind me calling you dorks right now. But like, we're in it. We're so in it. Sometimes we can't see the other side of it. But, when people like us are out there and we're looking for coffees that, we want, let's just say any one person in this coffee decided to open a cafe. Our access point to a coffee might be saying, hey, I want to access this really incredible coffee that is, currently on the menu with like Valor. Like a coffee from Sebastian Ramirez might be the thing that hooks me. But, what am I going to serve that on? Maybe it's going to be a featured drip. Maybe it's going to be a single origin espresso. Maybe it's a pour over. Like, it can have that kind of specialized slot for those who are into coffee as a product, but you still have to serve the coffee as an ingredient people. And so, the people who are kind of the I don't know, flavor forward thinkers of coffee wind up kind of building backwards and saying like, okay, does this roaster have a great coffee as an ingredient that I can use to anchor my espresso program, to be the backbone of every drink? And I think it's such an interesting thing, not just from the roaster's side, but from the sourcing side of like, at the end of the day, of course, we all want to buy the best of the best of the best coffees that are out there too, but we also want to find ways that we can open up this whole broad world of green coffee and be able to buy more, be able to buy deeper, so that like, not every coffee is the best, obviously, because if every coffee was the best, then there wouldn't be a best. It would just be coffee. So when you have those coffees that are still like objectively really excellent, but maybe don't meet that like top of the mountain peak, what do you do with them? What are you going to slot them into? And I think like Unblended, like Lucas, you guys have done such an incredible job of kind of like creating this whole portfolio of coffees where you're able to work with folks and really find homes for not just their most innovative and experimental lots, but also the coffees that are just like, the straight over the plate, like backbone coffees that you need to build a successful sourcing program.
I think that ties into like coffee as a product, as far as like, you were also saying that like when you have a brand, like you have a promise, like a brand is a promise. And it's like people like Sebastian Ramirez, Nestor Lasso, and all these folks like
Jaime Lopez.
Yeah, name, pick your poison. Like they have at this point in their career, they have a promise of like, if my name's attached to a coffee, it's going to be excellent. And it's like, I think you and the kind of like giving these young producers the resources to like get them, maybe they won't be a Sebastian Ramirez, but like to that upper echelon of like, they can consistently put out an excellent product that people can like put their trust in.
All the great business of coffee is built around the coffee shop business. If it wasn't for the coffee shop business, we wouldn't be here. So the case that I think we're making in coffee as a product is because two things. One, we're agreeing that it's a more profitable way. I mean, you're selling direct to consumers and e-commerce, and it has the potential to be a higher margin that only having your business rely on wholesale margins to coffee shops on just one type of coffee. And then two, which is how I can speak with authority here, is this is the way when coffee becomes a product, there is an objective way for producers to capture more value. And then it becomes a more profitable business and a more sustainable one. That's how I can talk with authority to it. So when we think of coffee as a product, we prepare ourselves to see a way that we can build a more profitable business for everybody in the supply chain, because you're capturing more value from the end consumer as a whole, because you're building off of intangibles to charge more for a product, which as a business, as a roaster, you can pay more for what you're buying.
Yeah, hey, if I can butt in there, just talking about adding more value, something you were talking about before is, it's not that hard to grow amazing coffee in Colombia. You just have to take some quality steps, and kind of like break the traditional pattern. And that was something really fun we got to see today at Oscar's farm, which is transitioning out of traditional farming practice and upping, like going into specialty coffee. And those are just words, you know, to us, but we got to participate in like what that actually looks like. And I mean, I feel like you guys would probably all agree that what that actually looks like is a lot of time and energy, like given to sorting and proper washing and proper care.
Which didn't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted to connect this idea to, if you are a roaster listening to this and you're like, hell, I want to diversify my business from relying to only selling wholesale to margin tight cafes, and how do I grow my e-commerce, which is selling coffee as a product, it just requires as much energy. It's probably the same simple steps, but they require a lot of energy and investment. Does that make, like, I wanted to draw a parallel between the effort that Oscar is doing and the effort that you guys are doing at Valor, ramping up the e-commerce
I mean, transparently. So, you know, we're on that course of building out a more robust, more product-focused menu. And what doesn't happen is that you just put, I mean, unless, you know, we were talking to Trevor a little bit about, you know, just the success of Black and White, and a lot of that coming from just the reputation of Lem and Kyle, and, you know, them carrying a lot of weight. But, you know, if you're someone maybe a little smaller like Valor, I can't just put Sebastian's Pink Bourbon on our online website and expect, you know, 3 pallets to fly off the shelf in a week. You know, it doesn't work like that. So now I do have to start working a lot more to tell that story, but I have such a great foundation, because the coffee has so much story to tell, you know, has so much to give. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah. Exactly.
Like, you kind of up the ante across the board. They sort and source and grow better so that we can market better and harder. Yeah.
And the flavor backs it up. So it's not like a vague promise that you're making, like, oh, it's a cool story, this producer.
Yeah. No, I think that's such an excellent point, because at the end of the day, like, I won't get too nebulous with it, but how we truly define specialty coffee is so, it's so vast, it's so sweeping, and depending
It's like
on
natural wine.
Very much so. No, truly. And it's like, depending on who you ask, it's like, well, is the coffee, you know, specialty coffee ultimately just about cup quality? Is it all about 80 plus points? Or is it about a value set? Is there a moral lens to what specialty coffee is founded on? I think that if you really want to split hairs, maybe that's where you differentiate specialty coffee versus third wave coffee or what have you. But ultimately, like, you know, I know at Black and White, we're always looking at flavor first when we're thinking about these small lots of coffee that we're going to drop. We release so much coffee. You know, an average week for us looks like dropping 2 coffees on a Thursday.
Wow.
So
every single week.
You drop 104 coffees a year?
Last year we dropped 100. I'm going to get the number probably a little wrong, but I believe it was 134 releases last year. And this year feels pretty much the same. We have a couple like 5 release weeks, which just like make my brain spin, but you know, it's cool.
And then just so people know, so what percentage of the business for Black and White is e-commerce, direct to consumer?
Yeah, great question. I mean, we're roughly 50-50. In terms of like number of customers, you know, we have far more people buying directly than just wholesale. In terms of like sales, yeah, in terms of revenue, it's like e-com is a little bit higher than 50%. But then when you look at the overall poundage, because our wholesale pricing is different, it's a lot closer to 50-50. But that said, you know, it's pretty hard to even get to 50-50 in specialty coffee. Like we definitely have a very robust D2C program.
Yeah.
But kind of taking it back to like, what's our entry point with, you know, selecting coffee? It's like, we're all about selecting coffees to feature based on the flavor. But also when we then kind of like have that QC analysis of the coffee and say like, this is great, we'd love to put it on our menu, we have to peel back the layers and say like, okay, well, where's this coming from? Like, is this, is this a relationship that we already have? If it's not, is it a new one that we really want to engage with? Like, what do we know about this relationship? And that to me is where like working with a group like Unblended, you know, we have trust built in this relationship. We've been buying. When did Kyle start buying from you guys?
2020, I think late 2021.
Yeah.
It's been a long time.
So pretty early in the Unblended story. And so like we know that, you know, when we're getting coffees from you guys that like we've got that trust built up. But then it always comes down to like, you know, if you're going to not just offer a coffee once, but feel comfortable about bringing it back to your menu year after year, if you really want to build something true and genuine and impactful with your customers, that comes with first having like all of the story to tell of the coffee itself. And of course, behind every one of these coffees is a real live person who did a lot of honest, hard work with their hands to make that cup of coffee possible for you, right? And so I think this whole kind of concept of further building up the personal brand that producers have is just it's so incredible, because the more that we can build real human stories, we're able to connect people in a more meaningful way with the coffee that they're drinking. So yes, the flavor is good, but there's a lot of good tasting coffee out in the world. What is it that's actually going to keep you coming back to saying, this is a coffee I want to seek out year after year after year? And I really genuinely believe that so much of that is about having like a heartfelt personal connection to that coffee and to the people who made that coffee possible.
I agree. I think in our generation, we definitely make decisions if given two equal options. If one of the options, we know the person or we connect with their story or they have better branding, that they communicate their values better. Personally, I would go for that one, and that's the case for our generation, I think.
Agreed.
So the intangibles is very important when making a purchasing decision. All of those things, like who grew it, their story, how do they relate to what I relate, things like that.
So if someone views coffee only as an ingredient, it probably wouldn't make much sense for them to spend the money to come down here, hang out with producers, talk to them about their farms, what they're working on. What kind of value do you see in roasters doing that, Lucas?
In them coming down to, well, given that we just said that in our generation it's important that the companies that we buy from like stand for something, and whenever they stand for something, is authentic, genuine, and sincere. So if as a roaster your promise is to have a supply chain that is aligned with your values, then coming here, I mean, you have to come, or you have to be intentional about building a relationship with your supply chain and making them partners of your business. So coming here, for those who have the opportunity to do it eventually, is just one more step to strengthen it and then gain more context. That's kind of one of the things.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think something that bears mentioning too is, like the whole team from Valor, myself, like we came down here and we went out to, again, to a farm last night and stayed there, owned by a grower named Oscar Osorio. And Lucas, you were saying you've never been to Oscar's farm,
I
right?
have never been. My sister has.
So
I didn't.
Lucas knows Oscar, he knows us, but we all came together in a place that none of us had ever been before. Obviously, Oscar had been there a lot, so much, but nobody in this car had actually been there. And I think that something that speaks to is also like the trust built in this relationship too, of like, ultimately when you are, thinking about what are all these intangibles, what are the stories that we're able to tell, part of that also is predicated on the idea that we're not just myth making, right? Like all too often it's easy to flatten a narrative and to kind of, tell just like the rosiest, sunniest picture of like, this is this person, they love everything about this, their coffee's all amazing, yada, yada. Going to Oscar's farm was just like so impactful because we see somebody who's like working, producing specialty coffee and working to further innovate and push their segment of their farm to grow and produce more and more specialty. And yet we're also still floating off, coffee that is ultimately going to be set aside. And it's going to be sold at a commodity price, like there are all sorts of things that like you're seeing and experiencing where you're like, all right, this is all still very real. This isn't just a, picture perfect, like sunny, I don't know, like there's no artifice to it. There's no facade to the fact that like coffee production is actually very nuanced and it's very complicated. And as much as you want to jump to certain end results, certain stories about it, that it's all actually more complicated. And I think that to kind of bring it back to like what having a partnership is all about, it is having that trust that, we're able to go and we're able to see these places that, we may be purchasing coffee from or, having, in Oscar's case, like we've brought his coffee in through the development program. Okay. But also we're seeing like this is a producer who has a lot of potential to put out, specialty stuff in the future. And it's like, I don't know exactly how I'm trying to put a nice tidy bow on it, but I think it's just without the trust to kind of like open up that experience and just let it be what it is and share that with one another, then the rest kind of doesn't all click into place, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just that context that you're talking about of like someone can often just be a name on the offering list, that even that Lucas could send us. But it's just a way different experience because at the end of the day, a roaster buying coffee from a producer is just engaging in a business partnership. And like the best business partnerships are founded on trust. So it's like, man, this guy opened up his home for us. I got to meet, his son, and like this is someone I am building trust with and I want to work with even more. And that's what I loved about last time we were here too, Lucas. You were always asking us about like our needs and trying to find producers on your team that match, You're like, oh, well, let's go talk to my friend Santi. I think his size of farm, where he's at in like his development would blend blend really nicely with where you guys are at. Oh, this is me. This is me. I got it. Cuando en Medellin. Dude, do you want to just like pick up where we were talking about like Tuesday, just about the lay of the land of Colombia? Like, what does it mean for someone to grow coffee here? What are their options? How does Unblended come into that?
Context on the business.
On the
Ooh, welcome to
business.
hell. Coffee is a commodity, as we all know. It fueled the colonialism. It was three crops made the colonialism trade with. So it was the transatlantic trade, to better put it, that fueled colonialism and imperialism. It was sugarcane, coffee, cotton, and slaves. The trade of those four, I don't want to say things, but three are things. One is people. Those four traits is what fueled the economic development in that era of colonialism and imperialism. So we've had coffee in the Americas brought by in this case, the Spanish colony, and the British colony, and the Europeans, the other Europe, like Dutch, Belgium, since 1600. So it's been part of the Latin American agriculture since then, even though coffee is not original from Colombia. It was original from Ethiopia. And then the story that I was telling them is that it fueled much of the economic growth of Colombia when it gained its independence from Spain in 1810. When it reached its independence, it was like a lost son, to put it like. It was so dependent on Spain. Spain leaves. What do? Well, we have coffee and we have a trading relationship with the U.S. So they kind of like piggybacked on that relationship, and that was kind of like one of the only economic things that happened in Colombia at the time was coffee trading with the U.S. It was so big and important for the economy here in the country that around, I kind of should have looked at the date, but around 1950 or something like that. We can fact check this, guys. The right date is here. The National Federation of Coffee was founded as an institution backed by the government that its sole purpose was to promote coffee trade, especially coffee exporting. So much and so that during the Cold War, in the government of John F. Kennedy, I want to bore you guys with political history.
It's good.
There was a program called the Alliances of Nations. In the Alliances of Nations, there was an investment package for Latin American countries to help them develop their economies so they wouldn't be praise of communism. During that package, the International Coffee Organization came up with a quota agreement in which certain consuming countries were going to buy certain amount of coffee from each country, and that quota system regulated the price. That situation broke after frost in Brazil created a huge shortage, and then in 1979 the quota agreement ended, making free trade in coffee for the first time. Dude, where are we?
We're getting around this little traffic. We're going on a highway. I know. Waze is taking us on that journey.
So, Colombia's relationship with coffee since the 1600s has shaped the landscape of where we are today. One more piece of context. It was illegal to consume internally export-grade coffee until 1993.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like they would lock you up if you were drinking in '84.
I mean, you could drink it, of course, if you had it at your farm, but like a local roaster could not sell that kind of coffee.
Dude, that's
It was-
crazy.
Yeah.
Until 1993.
It wasn't until 1993. Only Colombian people could only drink like the whatever you saw today coming first. The leftovers, the pasilla, the second grade
Yeah.
coffee. Yeah, crazy. And we're gonna fact check this one, but here's the date in the screen. It was up until this date that only the Federation could export their own, like all of Colombia's coffee had to be exported by the Federation. And then that just accelerated the progress in coffee. But anyhow, so now we have the context of why coffee is so important to Colombia and why the Federation plays such an important role in the development. So, in the 1960s and 1970s, the Federation did a big campaign of promoting Colombian coffee as a brand. They wanted people to associate Colombian coffee with the most premium, softest coffee. Suave lavado, suave. And then Juan Valdez became an icon, and there were a lot of advertisements, even Super Bowl advertisements with Juan Valdez that your parents saw. And so whenever they're like trying to promote what Colombian coffee tastes like, they came up with a standardized recipe, which is the washed Colombian coffee. So to this date, the Federation being an important institute for Colombian, which they guarantee purchase of any kilo of any farmer. Like you have a coffee tree in your backyard, you can harvest, and the Federation will buy it, guaranteed. But only if it's washed.
So when we were at Oscar's farm and we kind of went through that, what we're referring to as like the traditional washed profile, is that a profile that was that fermentation protocol kind of put forth by the FNC?
Yep.
Wow, that's crazy. See, I'd always known it. So many different countries have different fermentation techniques. And I'm well aware that in some countries they're strictly government regulated, but I'd always taken Colombia's for some reason as just like a cultural norm, just like a common practice. I had no idea that was a direct line from the FNC.
Well, it's not like you're gonna go to jail if you do something different, but what like they have incentives in place for rewarding that kind of profile that in parchment looks clean and it looks white. When you go to a traditional, you saw the parchment that he was putting out, it was kind of yellowish. If you go to a traditional buying point with a yellowish parchment like that, they're probably gonna take some points off, and you're gonna get less money.
Interesting.
As a
Why was his more yellow?
extended fermentation. But yet, how many washed coffees like the Colombian profile has Black and White released in the last year?
Yeah,
Very few.
a few, but not very many for sure. A lot that makes its way into like blends.
Right.
Coffees like the classic, we'll buy some kind of like large scale, just traditionally processed Colombian coffee. But yeah, as far as what actually makes it onto the menu, even the most tame coffees that tend to be along the lines of that profile almost always have a little more fermentation on them.
Exactly. So we're here in this dictonomy, or what is incoherence, or contrary.
Yeah, just
In
sort of
which-
a tension point. Yeah.
It's a tension point in between the federation providing incentives to follow the status quo, and then the specialty coffee buyers providing incentives for innovation, differentiation, trying new stuff. But yet, how do you help producers without access to market to innovate and experiment? And that, ladies and gentlemen,
Dun, 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 dun.
that's my mission in life. With my sister and the Unblended team.
Miguel. Wow. So maybe is that a big heartbeat for why so many of the coffees on Unblended's offering lists really focus on fermentation, experimentation, breaking the mold?
Yeah, and most important than, because whenever we put out a coffee like that, it's already like a success in our minds. What makes it all possible is our training lots, like the one Black and White buys, which is the young producer development lot, which, thanks to roasters like Black and White, we're able to guarantee purchase of any experiment that they want to try. Like, for example, whatever we did today with lemon and molasses, however it tastes, it could taste like not very fun. Like the citrus that, like all that mandarin that we peeled, we cup it and you're like, God damn, it doesn't taste like mandarin at all. In which would be a failure in the hypothesis that we had. That coffee is gonna go on the development, no matter what. So he has a guaranteed purchase. And then we can from there tweak it. And then Oscar, well, it didn't come out, what happened? Let's add more, maybe. Or let's add less molasses, or let's extend the time, or let's add water. You know, all of these things. Because experimentation naturally, with experimentation, we learn with trial and error. So how do you design a system that allows for trial and error without, and that allows for people that don't necessarily have the resources to, bear those losses on their own. So,
safety net.
yeah, or how do you build a safety net to allow people to experiment?
So interesting. Ethan, I've got a question for you, kind of building on that. What are, in running cafes, are there any kind of corollaries that you guys experience at Valor where, there's sort of like something where you're like trying to take a swing, trying to go out on an edge a little bit? And kind of create like for lack of a better term, like create a stopgap so that you can kind of like push your innovation forward.
Like maybe flesh that out. Like I'm Oscar or I'm Unblended. Who's Oscar?
Who's Oscar? There can only
There's
be
only
one
one Oscar.
I think on either end, it's an interesting question, right? Like,
Yeah, well, I mean, cafes are not a very high profit margin business, as you also know. And so it can't be hard to be like, okay, let's try slushies. And we're going to buy a $1,000 slushie machine. And boy, I hope it works out, Or, hey, we really want to do pour overs. Let's try this tone, auto pour over device and see what happens. Oh, it's not very good. Oh crap, we're 4K in the hole. And so you don't have that safety net and you just eat the loss. But then something I was thinking about, which is way more soft skill though, is like just how important it is to have a team, in general. So we talk about that a lot when it comes to offering above and beyond hospitality. Is like, we want to make sure that we can make space to cover someone's back so that they can go out and like do something risky.
Yeah.
You know, in the day, in the cafe experience. And so in a sense, it sounds exactly like what Lucas can offer for someone like Oscar or anyone in the program to say, hey, I'm gonna, you know, take maybe 2 days of my time during harvest season and dedicate it towards this experimental processing method. And Lucas is saying, yeah, I got your back. You know, whether it's amazing or, you know, leaves something to be desired, it's gonna not go in vain. So yeah, it's in the hospitality sphere. I feel like we can kind of live out that team mentality. And maybe Lucas, that kind of connects to, you know, buying coffee year over year from the same producer. You were talking about that. If someone's your customer, you know, you're always going to buy Carolina Ramirez's coffee. You guys have that commitment. And do you see that commitment follow through with roasters often? Or is it more fickle?
It is more fickle, even in both sides. So like, coming back to, we're all married in this car. A marriage is the beginning of a path, and not the end of a path. So, when it comes to relationships, it's very dangerous to take them for granted, and they're no different for our wives than, in this case, Carolina, or the relationship with a roaster. So those are all relationships that have to be built, and they're built through time, through conversations, through listening, through owning responsibility, through being present, to being attentive, to going, you know, putting the effort to wanting to build a relationship, so on and so forth. So our commitment is not that we're entitled to having Carolina, and we are going to buy her coffee as long as she thinks we're bringing value, and we're going to keep selling coffee to you guys at Valor and to Black and White as long as you guys think that we're bringing value, you know? So that is what I think about that.
Kind of a daily commitment, you know, like a daily yes.
Yeah.
With communication and agreement. Not like, okay, from this point on, I swear I will buy your coffee for the rest of my life. Whatever happens.
Exactly. And those kinds of things usually come with a lot of tension. Like, because then that makes for a deeper psychological podcast, but we have like a checks and balances account in our minds that is very delicate, and that's how the mind works. For example, like coming back to our married lives, like we do the dishes one day, and then the next day we feel like we don't want to do it because goddamn, we did it yesterday. Right? Or like,
my bros, right? My
or
bros.
Like, or like we do the dishes one day, and then we get yelled because we left the towel on the floor, and we're like, God damn it, like keep it down. I did the dishes yesterday, you know. So when it comes to relationships, business relationships is no different. Like, and whenever we said, oh, you are exclusive with me, or like I'm going to always buy your coffee Unblended. So that comes with checks and balances in everybody's mind. So all of a sudden the expectations in the relationship change. So when it comes to that, I like a lot of hygiene in the relationships with my wife, with my friends, with my team, with my business partners, which is producers and roasters. And having hygiene is setting expectations to be very clear, communication to be very clear, keeping your word, being honest, and that the result of that and the consequence of that is having a long-lasting relationship. Does that make sense?
See. Guys, do we have any closing thoughts, closing questions? We're wrapping it up. We're at about an hour.
Hey, thanks for having us on the CarCast, you know?
Thanks for all your insights.
Yeah, hey, off camera, we've been driving for hours the last few days, and it's been so fun to just share transparently where we're all at in our lives and in our companies, and yeah, you don't get this kind of time. So yeah. Thank you guys for making that time.
You know what? Let's take the long route.
Yeah, hey, I'm gonna turn around. We're gonna go back into Medellin. Just go sit on the highway.
Get a little bit more rush hour traffic, and then we'll go to Hardin.
Yeah, Hardin can wait. Traffic. And thank you, Dom.
Thank you for opening up the space for us to talk on here. It's been such a thrill to get to know all of y'all from Valor. It's been super fun to just get a crash course. I met these dudes like, I don't know, 36 hours ago.
Yesterday morning, baby.
So
at Clues.
We're shout out Clues. That's the real closing thought.
I mean, dude, how cool is it that you got to be a part of a Co-Ferment? I just thought that was crazy. Like, you were out there mashing Mandarin peel.
Yeah,
you know?
should we talk about the Co-Ferment that we did, actually?
Should we?
I think we
let's
should.
do it.
All right.
Go ahead.
We at least gotta add the context here, because Lucas mentioned it. So as Oscar is looking at kind of diversifying what he's offering. Ooh. Yeah, so Lucas mentioned the Co-Ferment that we did yesterday. And you know, going out to Oscar's farm, again, he's really trying to make all of these kind of quality innovations on his farm that has looked like everything from, we planted some churroso seedlings this morning. He has a truly tremendous number of churroso seedlings that are going to be going in the ground. But something extra special that we got to do was work with him on an experimental Co-Ferment lot. So Lucas, you told me about a similar program or a similar protocol that Carolina did. Yeah. So basically, we had several kilos of cherry that we all hand sorted as a group last night. By the way, hand sorting coffee cherry really hard. I think we all had our pruny little fingers just eaten alive by this process, but. We pulped the coffee last night, put it in a barrel, and then added a watered down molasses to kind of kickstart the fermentation, give the microbes a little bit more food to feast on. And then we had mandarin leaves taken off of a tree that were then pureed and added into that fermentation tank, and we rolled that barrel back and forth a bit. Across the patio last night and this morning to make sure everything got all shaken up. And then today, before we left Oscar's farm, we went out and we picked some mandarin fruit. We peeled a couple buckets of mandarins and added those peels directly into the fermentation tank for this lot. We set aside the fruit, which
we made orange juice.
Yeah,
Mandarin juice.
Yeah, we got to drink delicious mandarin juice before we left. Lucas was telling us a bit about how the fruit itself, the citric acid, is actually so acidic that it'll kind of kill off a lot of that microbial activity, right?
It'll kill the microbial activity and will stop the fermentation at all. Absolutely, yeah.
So, yeah, I think you were saying it'll be about 5 days that it sits in that barrel?
5 days. So on Sunday, or Saturday, we would add 3 days of water, and then it'll dry.
So that's pretty exciting. Really curious to see how that lot turns out. And to Lucas's point earlier too, it's really awesome to know that, like, you know, I think we know well enough that this coffee will turn out like flavorful? Will it be like the most amazing co-ferment we've ever tasted? Hard to say.
Yes.
It's a new experiment. Yeah, I mean, look, with
Regardless, it'll go into development.
that's exactly it, and that's the beautiful thing is that has given us that ramp to be able to have experimental processes like that and know that it's going to find a home in a lot that's blended really intentionally, not just with all these development components, but it does have particular flavor drivers that keep it as a definitively specialty grade coffee too. So.
Luke, do you have any closing thoughts? No. Lucas, do you have any closing thoughts?
We didn't get to talk about the tactics and strategy from Black and White's enormous success in e-commerce, which is in the millions. But you guys can sign up on this link on the masterclass on how to grow your e-commerce as a roaster.
Dude, joke's on you. We're gonna make that link a link to our subscription page for our coffee.
Please do.
Everybody's gonna be like, what? No. Yeah, no.
Bounce rate 80%.
Hey, thank you, Lucas. Thank you, Trevor. Thank you, Lukey too. Thank you, Dom, for all of your dangerous work, having your back to the windshield while I drive through Medellin traffic.
We're vibing.
That takes guts. Okay, guys, let's keep driving. Ciao.
Later.